The biggest game on Roblox right now is a lie. Under normal circumstances, when a developer gets caught rigging their own game against the players, the community retaliation is swift and lethal. We have seen titans fall and massive projects crumble the moment they stop listening to their fan base. Reputation is supposed to be everything. When the trust is gone, the concurrent player count crashes and the game fades away. But recently, a game called Fishit broke that law. For months, Fishit sat comfortably at the top of the charts, boasting a pristine reputation with a massive 95% like ratio. It was untouchable. It was a machine that printed numbers, pulling in over 500,000 to 800,000 players every single day. But then, in the span of 48 hours, that reputation was incinerated. The like ratio collapsed from 95% down to a controversial 79%. The game page was flooded with dislikes. The community revolt was so violent and so unified that the developers were forced to issue a desperate public apology. The cause? A massive scandal involving unfair advantages given to streamers, a betrayal that alienated the entire free-to-play player base. By every metric we know, Fishit should be dead right now. A drop in approval rating of that magnitude acts as a warning sign to new players to stay away. But here is the anomaly. Here is the glitch in the matrix that we are going to investigate today. Despite the hate, despite the mass dislike campaign, and despite the entire platform seemingly turning its back on the game, the player count did not move. It stayed at 500,000. It defied gravity. This video is not just about a developer who messed up. It is an autopsy of the streamer luck scandal and how this specific event exposed a much darker reality. We are going to peel back the layers of this controversy to answer the single most terrifying question on Roblox right now. If everyone hates Fishit, who is still playing it? The answer involves a global underground scheme, a black market economy, and a deception so vast it has tricked the entire platform. To understand why the streamer luck scandal was such a catastrophic betrayal, we first have to understand what Fishit actually is, and the fragile trust it was built upon. If you look at the gameplay, you will notice it looks incredibly familiar. That is because Fishit is essentially a dumbed-down ripoff of a much more complex game called Fish. Fish is a game of skill and patience. It has complex mechanics, specific rod stats like the Polaris rod, and events that require active participation. It respects the player's intelligence. Fishit, on the other hand, took that successful formula and lobotomized it. They dumbed it down to a level so low that a 2-year-old could play it. The minigame is impossible to fail, you just click. There are giant arrows guiding you everywhere. It is a big, shiny, sugar-coated simulator designed to keep your brain in a low-effort dopamine loop. But it had one feature that Fish did not feature that allowed it to skyrocket past its competitor. Fishit introduced an auto-fish button. In almost every other game on Roblox, using a macro or script to play for you is a bannable offense. In Fishit, it is a feature. You can toggle a button and the game plays itself. You can walk away, go to school, or sleep, and your account will continue to grind. This accessibility allowed Fishit to dominate the charts, reaching numbers that Fish could only dream of. While Fish hovered around 88,000 active players, Fishit was pulling nearly 10 times that amount. It became a top 10 game, rivaling giants like Blox Fruits and Brookhaven. The developers were sitting on a goldmine. They had hundreds of thousands of players hooked on their simplified, automated loop. But greed is a powerful thing. The developers weren't satisfied with just having the most players. They wanted to monetize the hype. They introduced game passes that allowed players to buy luck. You could buy advanced luck, extra luck, small luck, and VIP luck. If you stacked them all together, you could boost your chances by over 310%. Players spent millions of Robux real human money trying to get that mathematical edge. They trusted that the system was fair. They trusted that if they paid for luck, they would have the best chance in the game. That trust was the foundation of their 95% like ratio. And with one update, the developers took a sledgehammer to it. The turning point was the release of the Jungle expansion. This was supposed to be the victory lap. The developers hyped it up as the biggest update yet, promising new fish, new areas, and the classic Roblox engagement bait, an admin abuse event. For those unaware, admin abuse events are usually massive celebrations where developers give out free items or spawn rare creatures. In games like Steal a Brain Rot, these events allow players to go from a noob to a pro almost immediately. They are designed to reward the community. But hidden deep within the code of the jungle expansion was a secret modifier. As regular players grind for hours, clicking their screens, hoping for that 1 in a million drop, they began to notice a pattern. Content creators and streamers were pulling the rarest items with suspicious ease. It wasn't just good RNG, it was a rigged system. It was revealed that the developers had given streamers an unfair luck boost that no one else got. Imagine the insult. You are a regular player. Maybe you are a kid who spent your allowance on a VIP luck game pass. You are playing by the rules. And then you find out that a YouTuber, simply because they are famous, is playing a completely different game than you. They have a God mode enabled that makes your efforts look pathetic by comparison. The realization hit the community like a shockwave. This wasn't just a bug, it was a statement. The developers were effectively saying that the average player didn't matter. They were just content fodder for the influencers. The fairness of the casino was a lie. The reaction was instantaneous. It started in the Discord servers, spread to the group walls, and finally exploded onto the game page itself. People started protesting against the game, telling everyone to mass dislike it. It was a coordinated strike. In the world of Roblox, the like ratio is your credit score. A 95% ratio tells the world your game is a masterpiece. A 90% ratio says it is great, but when you drop below 80%, you enter the danger zone. The algorithm stops recommending you. Parents tell their kids to avoid it. In a matter of days, Fish It fell from 95% to 79%. The red bar on the game page grew larger than the green one. The comments section was a war zone of players screaming scam, unfair, and boycott. The pressure became so intense that the Fish It team panicked. They released a public apology, promising they would never do it again. They tried to backtrack, claiming it was a mistake, but the damage was done. The community had spoken. They hated the game. And this brings us to the moment where reality broke. If a restaurant poisons its customers, the customers stop coming. If a movie gets a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, nobody buys a ticket. If a Roblox game gets mass disliked by its own community due to a scam, the player count should crash. We have seen it happen to Grow a Garden. We have seen it happen to Plants vs. Brain Rots. I went to check the statistics, expecting to see the fallout. I expected to see the player count dip from 500,000 down to 300,000, or maybe even lower. I expected to see the death of Fish It. Instead, I saw a straight line. The player count didn't drop. It didn't even wobble. Despite the controversy, despite the hatred, and despite the apology, Fish It continued to hold 500,000 to 800,000 concurrent players. This is impossible. To prove just how impossible this is, we have to look at the data from Rollermans, a third-party site that tracks Roblox statistics. If you look at the graph for a normal, healthy game, like 99 Nights in the Forest, you see a heartbeat. It fluctuates. When kids in the US go to sleep, the player count drops from 2 million down to 700,000. When school starts, it dips. When school ends, it spikes. This is the breathing rhythm of a human player base. Now, look at the graph for Fish It, starting around October 30th. It is flat. It is eerily, unnaturally flat. It hovers around 500,000 players constantly. It does not sleep. It does not go to school. It does not eat dinner. It suggests that the 500,000 people playing this game are online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even more suspicious is the behavior during the updates. Remember the jungle expansion, the update that caused the scandal? Usually, when a top 10 game drops a massive update, the player count explodes. Steal a Brain Rot spiked to 3 million players during their update. Grow a Garden hit 5 million. Fish It, with a baseline of 800,000 players, barely touched 1 million during its biggest event. That is a pathetic increase. It implies that there was no hype. There were no old players waiting to come back. There was just the same block of 500,000 accounts that are always there. And then there is the final nail in the coffin, average playtime. The average playtime for Grow a Garden is 14 minutes. The average playtime for Brookhaven is 15 minutes. The average playtime for Fish, the game that actually requires skill, is 25 minutes. The average playtime for Fish It is a staggering 40 minutes. How is a game with simple clicking mechanics and bad graphics holding players' attention for twice as long as the most popular roleplay games in history? How is a game that everyone supposedly hates keeping people online for nearly an hour on average? The streamer luck scandal didn't kill the game because there was nobody there to kill. The players who are logged in aren't watching streamers. They aren't reading the apologies. They aren't disliking the game. They aren't even looking at the screen. The reason the streamer luck scandal failed to dent the player count is that the majority of the Fishit population are not players, they are workers. If you dig into the game's community, you will find a stark divide. The English channels in their Discord are relatively quiet, but the Indonesian channels, they are exploding with activity. This game has a massive, disproportionate following in Indonesia, and they aren't playing for the love of fishing. Fishit has become the center of a massive underground black market scheme. If you go to eBay or other third-party marketplaces, you will find thousands of listings for Fishit items. You can buy accounts, rare rods, and millions of in-game coins. Sellers are listing 1 million coins for upwards of $50 USD. In many parts of the world, that is a significant amount of money. It transforms the game from a pastime into a legitimate job. This explains the autofish button. It wasn't a quality of life feature for kids, it was a tool for industrial farming. The 500,000 players on the leaderboard aren't 500,000 individual kids having fun, they are likely thousands of bot farms. I found evidence on Twitter of hardware sellers advertising laptops, specifically for Fishit. One seller was marketing an Axu OLED Ryzen 7 laptop, not for its gaming performance, but because it runs very smoothly, allowing you to open multiple Roblox accounts at once. The tweet showed a screen running dozens of tiny instances of Fishit simultaneously via an Android emulator. This is a digital sweatshop. A single person can run 20, 30, or 50 accounts at once. They set them to autofish, leave them running for days, and farm currency to sell on the black market. This explains every single anomaly we have found. It explains the flat graph. Bots don't need to sleep. It explains the 40-minute playtime. Bots don't get bored. They only log off when the server resets or they disconnect. It explains the linear growth. The player count doesn't grow virally. It grows linearly as more bot farms are spun up. And most importantly, it explains the survival of the scandal. When the real human players, the 5% to 10% of the server who are actually kids, revolted and disliked the game because of the unfair streamer luck, it tanked the like ratio. But the bot farms didn't care. A bot running on a laptop in a Jakarta bedroom doesn't care if a streamer has higher luck. It doesn't care if the developer apologized. It only cares that the autofish button still works. The dislike bomb was the stress test that proved the theory. If the game relied on human engagement, it would have died. The fact that it survived proves that human engagement is irrelevant to its success. This revelation recontextualizes the entire Fishit phenomenon. We aren't looking at a game, we are looking at a zombie. It is a hollow shell that mimics the appearance of a popular game. It has the player count of a blockbuster, but the cultural footprint of a ghost town. It has no YouTube videos because nobody wants to watch a bot fish. It has no social media trends because bots don't tweet. It exists solely as a mechanism to transfer value from the Roblox economy into the real-world black market. The developers of Fishit messed up by adding the streamer luck boost. Yes, they exposed their greed, but in doing so, they accidentally exposed the nature of their own success. They showed the world that their player base is completely detached from the quality of the game. This sets a dangerous precedent for Roblox. Fishit is technically breaking the terms of service by facilitating real money trading. It is inflating engagement numbers artificially, yet it remains in the top 10. Why? Because 500,000 concurrent players looks good on a quarterly report. It looks good to investors. If Roblox were to ban the bot farms, the player count would likely crash from 800,000 down to the 40,000 or 80,000 real players that Fish has. That is a massive loss of perceived traffic. So, the game stays up, the graph stays flat, and the scam continues. In the end, the streamer luck scandal was the most important thing to ever happen to Fishit, not because of the luck boost itself, but because of what it failed to do. It failed to kill the game, and by failing to kill it, it proved that the game was never truly alive in the first place. The developers tried to rig the game for streamers, forgetting that their audience isn't watching streamers. Their audience is thousands of instances of BlueStacks running on overheating laptops, grinding for coins to sell for $50 a pop. Fishit is a monument to the dark side of the Roblox platform. It is a place where numbers matter more than people, where engagement is faked, and where a flat line on a graph is the loudest sound in the room. The developers might have apologized for the luck scandal, but they can never apologize for the fact that their game is a lie. As long as the autofish button remains, and as long as there is money to be made on the black market, Fishit will remain at the top. But now, at least, we know the truth. We know why the graph doesn't move. We know who is playing. And we know that when you stare into the dead eyes of those 500,000 avatars, there is nobody staring back. If you found this deep dive into the Fishit conspiracy eye-opening, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are going to keep exposing these anomalies until the platform cleans them up. Until next time, don't trust the numbers. Goodbye.